Hello. Okay, so this is where we are putting in. We just started downloading Apache Pig binaries by going into their website, and then I used the wget to get the specify the location, and it's trying to download that particular part. Once that gets downloaded, we will unzip the same, configure the different files, the paths as well as the variables, and then we'll try to go more deep into some of the pig related things which we have talked about, the grunt shell, to see how it executes in a local mode as well as a remote mode or map reduce mode, as well as we'll also do some common exercises which will help us out in that regard. So give it some time before it downloads the same. Okay, so this is where it downloads. Let's unzip it. So the big part has been downloaded. Let's go into let's move the we have just moved the pig binaries into the pig folder that we created. Let's unzip the same. The entire pig is written in Java, so it's just a wrapper around that one. If you try to browse around this one, that's something is a language which was developed in Yahoo to give us a workflow type of thing wherein you can write your job in a smart manner and in an easy manner, so that at least people, those who are not very deep into Java based thing, they also should be able to leverage the map reduce capabilities. Go into the bin directory, you'll see the pig script. That's the only script that you have. So that's something which you will be executing. If you go into your lib, these are some of the files that will be having. Actually not lib, this is go into your libsrc. You have some other files here available itself. If you go into your conf, these are the important directories to always configure for. You have your log4j for doing the templating or the logging levels, whatever you want to do it, as well as pig.properties to do any specific configuration. Important file is this pig jar file. This is something which will be referenced multiple times later on. So sorry, that is something which you will be using whenever in our exercises. We'll have, whenever we have to refer to the jar file, this is an important jar file which will be used there. If you have to use pig without Hadoop, like in a local mode, you use this jar. So again, that clearly specifies that one is for your map reduce mode, one is for your local mode, depending upon how you want to configure the same here. Now, so our pig binaries has been downloaded, we extracted it and all. The next thing that we have to do is to set this pig path in at the path level, so that our individual execution shell is ready. If you want to do it just for a session, you can just put it like export path equals and then the place where you have done the installation, you have to specify till the bin. this is just for the session itself, but if you want to modify it for many multiple sessions as well, just simply modify the thing that will be. So as I was talking about, that for one session you can just export it here, or what you can do is you can copy this path okay. This is an important thing. This one, make this as a home, pig home equals, copy the location of the path that you have specified. Don't put the bin directory. That's something you can, so put at that location, and then the next one. It's exactly similar to the way we have it for Java home. You'll configure, and the way the path has been configured, first the bin directory and then the path. Same way you configure a pig underscore home variable where you have the pig thing. Configure the same. So write and quit. Now to check if pig has been configured properly, just type pig -x, and we'll start initially. You can see it's saying that it has not been. Okay, let's close this up and start the terminal again. Switch to your root because the changes might not have taken directly. Now try to type pig. Okay, it still doesn't recognize this. Just let's go into Oracle home. Okay, owned by Oracle. I'm not speaking much on this one. We are just trying to configure. When we try to execute it, just try to type pig after exporting the pig binary path. When I just try to type pig, it tried to check Hadoop because we don't have Hadoop underscore home configured, so it was not able to find that, and that's the reason it complained that it will not be able to leverage any map reduce mode, and we will have to, it suggests that put minus or -x local to use it in a local mode. So that's something, it's inbuilt. Pig knows that it is probably used in a Hadoop based environment, so it tries to prepare itself in that regard. So since it is suggesting, let's use now at least in a local mode. Okay, so this is how your pig component will start up. You can see that you can directly configure the same and get the details around here. So it opens actually a grunt shell. If you use the ls, it will show you all the different commands that is there. If you type, I think, help, it gives you the commands which are available. Just put ls, it will show you all the file system related things which it can find out from in its own directory location. So a lot of these file system commands work directly, but let's try to write or do a simple pig base execution in a local mode. So right now it is running in a local mode, so we'll just do a simple example of seeing as to how we write our pig statements and all. So pig has been installed on this one. It is configured. Right now it's running in a local mode, not in a map reduce mode, because it's not able to find Hadoop. We'll configure the same later on, but let's try to run this directly. Now here Hadoop is not running. If Hadoop is running, it would have recognized that itself. So let's try to run. Now we have in the log file location, if we try to go like cd/var/log, you will see that there is a folder called messages. Let's try to read that particular file. This is a location or file which has some good amount of message. We'll try to read that thing. The quality that you are seeing from pig is that you can browse pretty much. It's again a shell itself, just like your bash shell, just that it is specific or it recognizes the pig specific command, but you can browse around and all. So let's try to have or read that particular messages file here. If we have to just read a specific type of warning messages which are there in this messages file, how will you write a simple pig script in a local mode? So we'll use some variables like a equal to space, use the, let's clear it out, sense a equals load /var /log/messages. This is where we are asking, we are just creating some here container which is a, which will load the values. If it is something an issue, it will try to give you an error. Now we'll call b equal to some other container b, which we'll use, and we'll use the filter command that we have in pig to filter this particular a container, and we will try to match only the warnings which we want to filter out. So I will give filter a, that is the container, by the first argument which I want to make is, that is $0 matches. I want to, because this is a log file wherein you have match like warnings, errors and all that things. I want to filter all the messages which are in a, their first parameter should match something like this. I'll just try to find anything which is starting with warn plus in a configuration mode itself, to warning thing itself. Okay, again this is just a warning thing which it gives in terms of implicitly doing, but it is able to read that file and all. Now if I need to say what is there in B, because B is what would have stored all the warning messages filtered out of that message file, you use the simple command called dump to see the contents of B. We'll see later on how to dump this particular output into an output file as well, but if you just want to see it at a console level, this is how you'll just use the dump command and you'll try to see the detail. So these are all the records which, okay, it's still doing it. That is a pretty big file itself. You can see it shows success. It is run in a local mode itself. If you go up, when we ask it to dump, it reads that particular part and it executes the job, and this is the place where it has stored the records itself in the TMP folder. By default it has given the statistics. That's where it is trying to put the details which are available there. So this is something which it has read it, but what we wanted to point was that this is a simple way in which you will be writing a simple pig based scripts using simple load commands, filter commands, as well as dumping of the commands to get the detail. In this case itself, let's go back and try to store, or yeah, the last one that we have, messages we have B. In this case we'll just, instead of dumping it, we'll once again, let's load it up. Warning is okay. Try to filter it again, and this time let's store it in a file, store B into output underscore warn. You can see here that it is storing this output. Now let's try to take a look at that. WD. If you open that file, let's go out of the particular shell, go into /var. There was output underscore warn, that was something which we created, ls. You have the part. Let's try to see what's available there. Nothing comes here. Have to see if there was any output. -ltr. There's no qualified thing itself, but once it finds out any individual warning, it will be able to do that. But the intention here was just to take a look at the way in which you write pig commands and interact with the files, load it into the MapReduce framework, and then you try to take that out back. When we'll do some more complicated example, we'll try to write the word count program in this one, as well as we'll also try to access some meaningful data which will be able to show this thing. The intention here was to see or install pig by downloading it, unzipping the thing, setting the paths itself, understanding the local as well as the MapReduce mode in which it is configured, and then seeing what is there in the grunt shell, that is the shell which is supporting or which supports your pig Latin commands. So whatever we were typing in, that load command, filter command, dump command, those are all artifacts of your pig Latin thing. So again, that is something which you guys can play around and make that as a skill set later on. If Java is not the core skill set, pig helps you or gives you an interactive API. It is very close or at least intuitive, so that you can write and comprehend your statements in that particular sense. And behind the scene, it tries to, since right now Hadoop is not running, so it is not able to leverage, but you did saw that it is trying to run the job and it have the references. But once your Hadoop is running, and if you will open it in a MapReduce mode, it will actually create the same thing, map tasks and the reduce task, and it will try to give you some individual outputs based on top of that. So this covers just the installation of pig and the running of basic grunt shell in a local mode. Next, when we omit, we will write the word count program and we'll execute the same in the MapReduce mode for Pig, and at that time we'll have to make sure that Hadoop also is running on this system. Thanks for the session on Pig installation and introduction to the Grunt shell.